You've got 30-foot waves, you've got 50 knots of wind.
It's a long and harrowing story.
The current one's old, it's rigid, and it's too dangerous to leave it in.
Let's see if I can get this done in time for beer o'clock. Right, you missed all the action yesterday. The guys put on the front stanchions and we've tightened up all of the bolts. That was the real bastard one, but they've managed it. I didn't get involved, I'm happy to say, because I knew how difficult it was going to be. But there we go, these have got to be polished up. But this morning, Lek has come aboard with the boys and he's going to be adding an additional bracket to the vertical here. The reason for this is that I was a bit concerned about lateral movement. Although this is a pretty solid setup, it does move a little left and right. So we're going to be adding what is actually our old spray dodger frame. So we've managed to salvage that and we're going to be putting, you can see the shape of it there, we're going to be putting that, fixing it at about that point there, down onto the deck where Lek is now marking now. Well, this is one of the issues with fitting things on boats, is trying to find whereabouts deck fittings appear underneath. You can't really see that, but basically we've got this fascia which holds up the lights, which is this thing here, and we couldn't remember how we installed them, so we've now worked out how they come off, and the bolt for that frame on the Dodger vertical comes in where Ton is now chiseling away. You happy, Lek?
Not loading yet, tag on it.
Well, as the lads just finish off the extra bars we're putting on the Dodger upstairs, you can hear in the background, he's just polishing up now. I thought I would empty those tanks once more. This time, however, I've got a 40-gallon drum, as you can see sitting up there, the pumps inside, very slowly extracting the diesel from those tanks there. Meanwhile, it's a bit of a mess. I should probably grab the light here as we lose light, but you can see we've had to take down the panels for the light switches, and that is because, as I work my way through here, that is the bolt for the extra bar we've added to the Dodger. Well, look at this. I don't know if you can see the detail there, but that is the track installed on the Dodger, and it's thanks to this man, Suban. And Suban is Ricardo's best Chiang Mai carpenter, and he said leave it with this guy because he'll know what to do. Now, the reason why we got him in to do this rather than attempt it ourselves is because of this corner. We had a go with the heat gun and we broke it. So Suban also tried that and also broke it. So what he did was he used a piece of cable rigging, heated up the cable rigging, ran it inside the track and was able to bend it as the cable, the warm cable, softened the plastic. Ingenious, absolutely ingenious. So there's the ceiling track. Now the ceiling track is different. This is the one that has to point down. Straight down. The one down the bottom has a slightly different profile. I don't know how much you can see of that one, but anyway, he's done it. He's even trimmed around one of the cleats. A little bit of nice detail there. So I suspect when we come to do the canvas, we're going to run the canvas over this so it covers it, and then we'll make it go up and out of the way of the cleat. But it looks like Suban has finished installing it, and now what he's doing is running a bead of it's either Sikaflex or silicone, I didn't check, one of the two, probably silicone I imagine, just around inside there, and he's run it inside along this bit here. Really impressed with his workmanship. This guy is very, very knowledgeable in the ranks of ton, I would say.
Second day back, straight into manoeuvring things around the boat. When I say things, I mean hoses, and we all love hoses. So, got a new bilge pump, which is easy to install, but it's the pipe work, the hose from the bilge pump that's a problem. And the current one's old, it's rigid, and it's too dangerous to leave it in, so we've got to change it. So we've got to take this piece of hose here and push it through from the bilges through here, through a tiny little hole here, through, and then through another hole which is under here, into the area under the cupboard here, and pull it out. Looks easy. It's taken us about an hour, and all this thread.
So here we are, my favourite place on the boat, the one I've nicknamed the horrible cupboard, and running the new bilge pipe here, and you can see the old one is this one here, which looped all the way up through there. I'm taking out the old bilge hose now, and I'm actually really glad I'm doing this job, because this thing is literally breaking off from my hands. Every time I try and bend it around a corner, a little bit snaps off. So that just shows you how brittle this hose was. Of course, what you didn't see was all the swearing, lots of swearing, but we did manage it within half an hour. So here it is. It runs down the side of the engine there. And the other great thing was that not only was there already a hole there and inside the cupboard, but there was also a hole in there. So we're even able to thread this one through, and that one there is the old bilge pipe, which I'm going to pull out from this end. So quite happy that that job took a lot less time than we were expecting. Right, just finishing off in the horrible cupboard. So the hose is there, haven't yet cable tied it, I'll talk about that in a minute, but here we go. There is the hose coming out, and it's going on to that end there. It's a smooth fitting, so a bit of PTFE tape is in order, in fact quite a bit. So I've put that on there. I've mentioned these before, the D-clamps as opposed to Jubilee clips, or hose clips as some people call them. I prefer these, but you've got to get the absolute right size. There's not much give in those things, so fortunately I've got a few spare. So talking about cable ties or zip ties, is zip tie the hell out of everything. Make sure everything is absolutely zip tied, because obviously with the motion of the boat, things are going to be moving around and you don't want them to be rubbing or coming loose. So that bit there, you'll see I put at least 4 zip ties on, and then a few more around the corner there to keep it in place. This is underneath our sink. This is where our very old fridge compressors live, and magically there was already a hole, you can just see it in there where this clear tube, we spent ages feeding it through. But anyway, it runs up inside there, and you can see we've got 3 seacocks. One on the far left is our bilge, that's off at the moment. So you see it's been double clamped, so I'm going to have to use the heat gun to remove that, and I'll double clamp the thing, new hose back on. Let's see if I can get this done in time for beer o'clock.
Since we've been talking about installing bilge pumps, we thought it was a good time to bring up a story that's been around the net for a month or two now. It's about a 46-foot monohull that was abandoned off the coast of North America by a couple with 70,000 miles under their belt and 27 years of sailing. It just shows you that it can happen to anyone. It's a long and harrowing story, and we will put a link below. But for just for now, we want to talk about the bilge pump situation that they found themselves in. It's not pretty.
Right, do you just want to read a quick extract from it?
I was suddenly on the ceiling and tons of water came in through the companionway hatch. The noise inside the boat was deafening. When I put my feet on the floor, I was standing in water up to my ankles. Almost every locker door was open or broken, and the lockers were bare, with the contents sloshing back and forth in the cabin sole. We had 4 electric bilge pumps, one a large capacity pump. All 4 were clogged with debris. It was from all the softback books we had on board. The paper turned to mush with the sloshing and went right through the screens into the pumps.
As Liz says, this story has done the rounds on social media, and I think they actually deleted it from their own website in the end, and I imagine there's probably a lot of armchair sailors out there telling them what they did wrong, what they should have done. We're not here to judge that at all. I think the best thing you can do when you read stories like this is to try and take something away from it, lessons learned basically. If you read Heavy Weather Sailing by
Peter Bruce,
published by Adlard Coles Nautical, almost half the entire book is given over to case studies and lessons learned by the owners from some of these horrendous stories. I know Yachting Monthly does the same thing as well. They publish stories by boat owners about what they learn from their experience, and that's just something that we wanted to look at just quickly now.
And I want to say a big thank you to these people for writing about it. It took a lot of guts, and it was a very harrowing and a horrible situation, and well done, and thank you for writing about it for the rest of us to learn from.
Yeah, because hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But you just don't know what it must have been like at the time. So one of the things that we took away from that was the bilge pumps. Now, unfortunately, of course, they clogged theirs up with lots of paperback books. The reason why we're talking about this, of course, is that we've just installed a new bilge pump. So absolutely essential that that thing works.
Yep.
Incidentally, by the way, when we showed the installation of the splitter pipe that I'm putting in the engine compartment to change between the main bilge and the engine bilge, someone pointed out that putting in right angle 90-degree elbows is not a good idea. So that's something I think we need to look at. Apparently they said they had 4 bilges.
Yeah, four
bilge pumps.
Yes.
Now we have we have 2, we have a manual and we have an electric. And I am tempted to put back the shower pump that we had and maybe install that as a 3rd pump as well.
Yes, absolutely. And also we're going to carry spares. One
of the problems, of course, was that all the cupboard doors smashed open and the entire contents came out of those cupboards. So for the last week or so, we've been raiding Home Pro, our local hardware store, for barrel bolts. And we've been putting barrel bolts on every single cupboard door.
So although we have those locks on the doors anyway, and they're not supposed to come open, when you're hitting that kind of force, if you're going to have a knockdown, they're going to come open, which is what happened to them. They don't look pretty, but a stainless steel bolt in place, we hope will do the trick and keep them closed. And then the other thing is netting. So these guys had a real problem with the paperback books, clearly. We've always used netting when we're doing offshore sailing. So you secure the net bottom and top with hooks. I brought back from the UK a big roll of netting. It's really, really strong stuff, better than what we have at the moment, I think. And it's going to go everywhere, over all the bookshelves, all the open lockers, over the bunks, over the front. Literally, it's going to be all around the boat to minimise this problem with things falling and getting stuck all over the boat and flying. Now, we know somebody whose brother was killed by a can in a knockdown. It was the can that hit his head at the wrong time, and he was killed. So you've got to avoid this happening.
Battery compartments, you know, we've got the starter battery and the chart table. That needs to be bolted down. The chart lid needs to be bolted down as well.
The sole boards.
The sole boards is another thing we haven't done. Our old sole boards were screwed in place.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably something we're going to have to do, is to screw them back in place again. It's not pretty, but we'll countersink the screws, and at least we'll know that they should stay exactly where they're supposed to.
My only problem with that is that under some of them I store food, cans and so forth. So we're looking at those I don't know what they're called, the bolts that kind of they're flush fitting bolts, and then bolt those in so that they're secure, so that at least we can get to them.
Another subject that perhaps we'll discuss at another time is storm tactics and what you would do. And this is something we've been talking a lot about lately with a few people around the marina. Do you turn and go into the wind, or do you run with it? And there are pros and cons for both these tactics. Interested to know what you think. Please stick them in the comments below. What would you do? You've got 30-foot waves, you've got 50 knots of wind. Do you turn the boat into those waves, if you can, or do you run with it? And of course, if you run with it, you're with the weather longer. But if you turn into the wind, you're putting a lot of force onto the bow of your boat with breaking waves. So yeah, what would you do?
Yeah, I'd love to know. One other thing that somebody said to us last night, which I thought was brilliant: all your paperback books, get rid of them and just replace them all on your Kindle. Suddenly you've got a whole lot more space, and you've got something that isn't going to do that kind of damage.
Okay, back to the maintenance. Right, just a quick one here on the breaker for our lights in the cockpit. Now, if you remember, the idea is to have a spot on the port side, a spot on the starboard side, and also an LED strip, and that is also powered by somewhere on the starboard side. So we've got two cables there, one there. So I've threaded them all through and they come out into the cockpit box here. Managed to pick up a 3-switch breaker. Very pleased about this because this turned up on the morning Liz was leaving, so happy with that. Unfortunately, we've had to mount it that way up and not the other way up because it's right by our jammers. So it was the only way around we could put it, unfortunately, but never mind. And they share, you see the black cable here, that's the power cable, and that's going to run to the horrible cupboard to a bus bar connected to the batteries. The breaker shares a positive, and I've shared the negative using chocolate box. So all the negatives are connected to the one negative here, and of course the breaker then has separate positives for each of the lights. So just by using the multimeter, doing a continuity test, I'm able to check to see which cable is which connection here. So pretty straightforward. Of course, I've got to yet to install the lights themselves. Lecky's making some mounts for the spots. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much it. Just got to sort that, get the power to this the black power cable now. But we're ready to mount this in and put it in position.
So another maintenance packed video there. As you can see, I just got back on day 2. You had me hitting the ground running, didn't you?
Right, what else are you going to do? It's not a bloody holiday, you know.
I know. Yeah, and feeding pipes, I hate doing that, just hate it. But God, we did it, thank goodness.
But anyway, we're seeing good progress on that Dodger, and hopefully next week you're going to see some work on the solar panels. Solar panels is something that we will discuss in a lot more detail in the near future, about whether we go for parallel versus series and those kind of questions.
I think Subban did a fantastic job. He's a really good carpenter, giving Ton a run for his money.
Yeah, the reason why you haven't seen much of Subban is he's actually working full-time on another boat here, but Ton and Tui were actually away on another job at that time, so Subban stepped in and helped us out and did the whole thing in a day anyway, so all credit to him.
Really good.
Right, you know what to do. Hit that like button and please do subscribe. And by the way, I've heard that just subscribing isn't enough now. YouTube, once again, are playing with their algorithms and what have you. So when you subscribe, make sure you hit that alarm bell button. And of course, give us a nice thumbs up.
Yeah, thanks very much for watching. Peace and fair winds.